What's up, YouTube people? It's your boy Patty McNinja, and I am going to take a break from talking about Pal World, at least for 1 week, because we just got the brand new Rocksteady game, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and of course, I've played it, and I want to talk about it. So without further ado, let's rock. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is an open-world third-person shooter Batman Arkham spin-off game. That was a mouthful, where players, instead of playing as a Dark Knight, actually pilot the Suicide Squad, consisting of Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, King Shark, and of course the fan favorite Harley Quinn. Instead of being set in Arkham or Gotham City for that matter, Kill the Justice League is actually set in Metropolis, where Brainiac has invaded and brainwashed the Justice League. Kill the Justice League was officially released on February 2nd. However, if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition, you actually got access 72 hours early. And normally I'm all for early access as a deluxe or pre-order bonus, and I considered it with this game. However, based on what happened, I'm glad I didn't. I feel like I dodged a bullet, because only after an hour of early access, this game had to be pulled after it was discovered that players that pre-ordered the deluxe edition already had story completion, even though they hadn't played the game yet. So basically there was a bug in the game where if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition and you tried to play in early access, the game treated it like you had already beaten the story. So again, I'm really glad that I didn't pay the extra money and pre-order the deluxe edition, because it was off to a rocky start, pun intended. Kill the Justice League was of course developed by Rocksteady and published by Warner Bros. It dropped on PC, PlayStation 5, and all the Xboxes except for Xbox One. I did play it personally on my Xbox Series S. I did play it for about a little over 15 hours, and that 15 hours consisted of a good mixture of side stuff and main story. However, if you just hyper focus on the main story, you could probably beat this in about 10 to 12 hours, depending on how good you are at the game. And very similar to what I mentioned in my Pal World review, this game has a big multiplayer component. However, as I play most games, and especially the games that I review, I played this solo only. If I'm being honest though, I was a little torn going into playing this game. So I'm a big fan of the Batman Arkham games, and Kill the Justice League is technically in the same universe, and I thought the idea of playing as the villains trying to kill the Justice League was really intriguing. So much so that this was one of my most anticipated games of 2023. And obviously, since I'm talking about this game right now, Kill the Justice League didn't come out in 2023. Suicide Squad was actually set to come out in 2022 originally, but was pushed back to May 2023, and then of course February 2024. The second delay was actually the most concerning, because it was following a disappointing PlayStation State of Play live stream. During that live stream, it was announced that Kill the Justice League was going to be a live service game with a battle pass, and it was going to require internet connection even in solo play, which I do want to mention that internet connection thing was a big pain in the ass for me, because I got kicked out a couple of times even though my internet was fine. And anytime a game is described as a live service game, I throw up a little in my mouth. So the closer we got to this game, especially after the state of play, I began to wonder if it was just going to be another Gotham Knights, and that didn't turn out so well for Warner Bros. And right off the rip, I have to make it very clear that if you, like myself, were a big fan of the Batman Arkham games, and you were hoping that since it was set in the same universe, that Kill the Justice League would have the same DNA as those games, I have to report, unfortunately, you're going to be very disappointed, because despite technically being in the same universe, there's really no connective tissue. Yes, there are occasional references to the Arkham games. There's a kind of Batman museum that you'll walk through early on in this game that has statues that you can interact with that will kind of recap the events of the Arkham games. There's also Riddler trophies, and there's a boss battle at the end of the game that's very similar to a Scarecrow fight. And I know I listed a few things, but those things make up a very tiny percentage of this game overall. You could honestly take like 3 to 5% out of Kill the Justice League, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that it was in the same universe as the Arkham games. And as a general rule, whether I'm reviewing a game or not, I typically will stay away from reviews unless I'm borderline on buying the game to begin with. But I play a lot of different types of games, and I'm totally comfortable rolling the dice playing bad games. If it's bad, it's bad, but my opinion is my own. But that being said, I have been on Twitter a lot the last couple of days, more than I probably should. I mean, if you're on it for a minute, it feels like that's more than you should, but that's beside the point. And I have seen a few people, more than a few if I'm being honest, really shitting on Kill the Justice League. And if I know YouTube, I'd probably get way more clicks on this video if I did something similar. If I came out in this video and I talked about how this game was so bad that it offended me to my core, that they spit in the face of the Arkham games, I know I would get way more clicks than I probably would otherwise. And as much as I want to give everybody what they came here to see, I have to disappoint some of you, because I'm not going to be that guy that comes on camera and gives you this super hot take about Kill the Justice League. Because despite the fact that there was a lot of untapped potential in this game, and I was also very frustrated with Rocksteady forcing a live service system on a game that had no business being a live service game, I still had fun with Kill the Justice League. It still had its moments. I'm glad that I played it, even though because of some of that untapped potential, I will most likely forget that I played it at the end of the year. But let's back up to the beginning. Kill the Justice League starts off with a really clunky flash forward tutorial that lasts about roughly 30 minutes or so. However, the first 2 to 3 hours of this game I consider to be the real tutorial, because the game still treats you with kid gloves and doesn't let you free roam until about 3 hours in. However, the official tutorial teaches you traversal, which is very important because essentially there's no fast travel in Kill the Justice League. The little fast travel there is only unlocks about halfway through the game, so you're going to spend a lot of time traveling through Metropolis. Luckily, the traversal is one of the bright spots of this game. Each character has their own unique way of getting around thanks to stealing some tech from the Hall of Justice. Deadshot has a jetpack. While fun to mess around with, isn't the best for long trips across the city. Harley Quinn has a bat drone that allows her to swing like Spider-Man and grapple like Batman. King Shark is actually the only one of the squad who didn't need to steal anything, because he already has the ability to kind of just super jump around. But by far my favorite member of Task Force X to travel with was Boomerang. He has Speed Force tech that allows him to essentially throw his boomerang and then teleport to it, which was really fun. Since the game makes it pretty easy to switch from one Suicide Squad member to another, I would often travel with Boomer, and because I enjoyed fighting with Harley the most, I would switch to her when we got there. It was a lot of fun traveling around with Boomer. Unfortunately, those traversal abilities are limited. You can only use them for short bursts, so there will be a lot of like running across rooftops in this game until you can use your traversal abilities again. However, like almost everything in this game, the traversal abilities are upgradable. And while the game does make it easy to switch from one character to another, it does feel like, unfortunately, Rocksteady built this game with the multiplayer in mind. While your squad's AI isn't the worst I've ever seen, you're going to have to do the heavy lifting if you play this game solo. Also, your squad doesn't level up with you when you play solo, so whatever character you choose going into that mission is the only character that will get XP at the end of the mission. So if you basically play this entire game maining your favorite character, which in my case that was Harley Quinn, even though I did play a lot as King Shark at the beginning, that character will be overpowered while the others will feel like little babies. However, The other members will auto-equip better weapons when they are unlocked, so that does make solo play slightly easier, and the game does have an interesting feature that encourages you to switch to other characters. There are certain missions that, depending on what you are doing or who you are fighting, one member of the squad will be what they call psyched up. If you play as that psyched up member, you will get extra XP and rewards. Of course, you can use that XP to upgrade at a very basic skill tree. The skill tree was pretty disappointing in this game. I'm sure the talents unlocked in the skill tree played a part, especially the HP and shield talents, but I didn't really feel like much of them were big upgrades. I actually found crafting better weapons and equipment had a bigger impact than upgrading talents. Therefore, I found myself doing the side missions that unlock the ability to upgrade and craft different weapons more than the other side missions. And like I said earlier, I tend to play these open world games with a healthy mix of side and main quests. Like I did with Kill the Justice League, I usually will play a lot of side missions early on and then focus more and more on the main story as I go along. If I dig a game, I'll go back in and clean up everything I missed after I finish the story and let the credits roll. Unfortunately, I doubt I'm going to be spending much more of my time with Kill the Justice League. Its repetitive game loop would make Marvel's Avengers blush. If I had to protect one more vehicle in this game while it slowly drove down the street, I was going to scream into a pillow. But honestly, I can forgive a repetitive game loop. I've played plenty of games like Kill the Justice League where the side missions just consisted of a mixture of either protecting or destroying a certain number of things, and I still had fun playing those games. But the biggest sin that Suicide Squad committed was the combat just wasn't that much fun. I don't think I've played a video game that has earned its flashing lights warning more than Kill the Justice League did. I honestly considered putting one of those warnings on this video just because I was going to use so much combat footage. I think Girlfriend Reviews calls it something like diarrhea Christmas lights, and I couldn't help but think while I was playing this game, man, they're gonna hate this game because there's so much of that all the time. Most of the time, I couldn't even tell what was happening because there was so much shit on the screen. Apparently, you can turn some of this off in the settings, but since I was gonna review this game, I like to play it the way that the developers intended. But fair warning, if flashing lights bother you, don't play this game. To make matters worse, the creature design was also pretty boring. They looked like generic video game monsters, and there was almost no variety. You either had your little guys or you had your big guys, and that's pretty much it. Now, there were sniper enemies, but they would teleport as soon as you got close to them, so you never really got a good look at them. There's also some Speed Force enemies, but they function much like the smaller enemies, and you don't come across those guys until the end of the game, and therefore they felt thrown in at the last minute. And those side missions are really just fodder for what the game is really about. And as the title would suggest, it's killing the Justice League. When you break this game down to its foundation, it really comes down to two things. You get the doodad that helps you kill one of the members of the Justice League, and then you go kill that member of the Justice League. And while I didn't like the combat clearly, I do want to give them credit that the idea of killing the Justice League was bold. It was definitely a huge swing. And I think it, for the most part, worked for me. But I also want to admit, now that I've had a little bit of time to digest this game, that I think I appreciate the concept of finding and killing the members of the Justice League, these superheroes that I've grown up with, more than I actually enjoyed the boss battles themselves. The boss fights themselves in Kill the Justice League were pretty formulaic. There is a counter mechanic that, outside of maybe the traversal mechanic that we talked about earlier, is the most important thing for you to master to do well in this game, especially during the boss fights, because every boss fight, outside of maybe the Batman boss fight, which that one still had countering as well, basically function the same way. The superhero the Justice League member that you're fighting has two bars. One's the HP bar, which of course you have the HP bar, but then there's another bar that's essentially, I think of it as like countering momentum. The more you counter that boss, the more that bar fills up. And then when it's like 60 to 70% filled, you can actually hurt the boss. And that's essentially all you have to do in these boss fights. You counter until that bar's filled up enough, then you shoot them, rinse and repeat until they're dead. Boss battles are a good way to transition to the story because if you've seen the trailer and read the title of the game, you know what happens in this game. Brainiac invades Earth and brainwashes the Justice League to help him terraform Earth to his liking. A desperate Amanda Waller recruits, or more like forces, Deadshot, Quinn, King Shark, and Boomer to join Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, to find and kill the Justice League. And like I said, I think that's a bold move for Warner Bros. And Rocksteady to kill off these giant characters. These are OG superheroes, and you are killing them off in favor of these D-list bad guys. And I want to give them credit for taking a big swing. I just assumed that despite the game's title, that they would find some cop-out because these characters are so massive. And maybe eventually they will, and at that point it may change my opinion of this game, but as of right now, I really appreciated that they went for it in Suicide Squad, and it led to some really fun moments. King Shark had a really cool moment with Green Lantern that was easily my favorite part of the story. But I'd be doing this game a disservice if I don't mention by far the best part of the game overall, and that was its humor. I did a trailer reaction video for what I believe, if I remember correctly, was the 2023 Game Awards Batman reveal trailer, where I mentioned that there wasn't much levity to the Arkham games, which made sense. I'm not criticizing those games. Batman really isn't known for his jokes, but I'm a big fan of comedy, and I was hoping this game would kind of follow the lead of the James Gunn Suicide Squad film and have a sense of humor. And I'm happy, I'm ecstatic to report this game knocked it out of the park in that area. It's one of the funniest games I've played in a while. I found myself laughing a few times in almost every cutscene. Each character had their own funny moments, but I especially want to point out how much I enjoyed King Shark. Speaking of James Gunn, King Shark played a similar role in this game as he did in that film. He's kind of that dumb character that takes things very literally and doesn't get sarcasm, which really works for me. He also made a boomerang pun that was by far my favorite joke of the game. And I mentioned earlier that there is almost no fast travel, and therefore you have to manually travel around Metropolis. And most of that time, the Suicide Squad will kind of bullshit with each other, and that really helped, especially later in the game when you have seen the same buildings over and over again, and that kind of cuts through the monotony of it. Also, the Suicide Squad shenanigans really play well opposite Amanda Waller's serious nature. A lot of that can be credited to Deborah Wilson's performance. Waller is one note, but she absolutely kills it at that one note, which should come as no surprise because she was awesome in the Fallen Order games as well. And it certainly doesn't hurt that this game looks amazing. The fidelity in the cutscenes is top notch. The detail was amazing. There are literal close-ups where you can see the pores on the characters' faces. So they obviously took their time and put a lot of effort into the cutscenes, which I appreciate. And while I prefer Gotham City to Metropolis, mostly because I love Batman and I don't really care so much about Superman, Rocksteady clearly knows how to build a video game city, and Metropolis in Kill the Justice League was no different, which was great because, like I said, there's no fast travel, so you spend a lot of time in Metropolis. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, a lot of my positive thoughts about Kill the Justice League were essentially counteracted by the fact that Rocksteady decided to force another live service game down our throats. Now, to be honest, Kill the Justice League was probably never going to be an amazing game. It was probably never going to stack up to the Arkham games, but it definitely had potential to be a really good game if they didn't waste so much time making it a live service game. I mentioned Marvel's Avengers earlier, and I keep coming back to that game because I wonder how long it's going to take for these video game developers to realize superhero games don't work as live service games. What's the expression? Forcing a square peg into a round hole? That's what they did with Suicide Squad. Pretty much the entire time I was playing this game, I was like, how are they gonna force a live service system on this game? It just doesn't feel like a live service game. But not to spoil anything, something happens at the end of the game, or at least towards the end of the game, like the third act, where they keep mentioning that we're gonna have to do something over and over again. And I was like, there's no way that they're gonna make us do the same thing over and over and over again. And then it dawned on me, I was like, oh, that's the live service part. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So to wrap up, because of the live service elements and a pretty boring gameplay loop, I can't give Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League a very high star rating. Just for reference, I consider 3 stars to be my baseline for a soft recommendation. So unless you are a big DC fanboy, I would say go ahead and stay away from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. At least for right now, I would not pay full price for this game. I would wait for like a Steam sale or a Black Friday sale to get this cheap, because it is pretty funny and it looked great. So because of those things, I am going to give it 2.5 stars. It's really close to a recommendation, but not quite. Again, I would wait for it to be super cheap. And before I wrap up, I didn't really know where to put this, but I do want to give them credit. So this was originally reported to be Kevin Conroy's last performance as Batman, and I loved the animated series growing up. He is the voice that I hear when I read Batman comics, so I was really bummed that this was going to be his last performance since he tragically passed recently. But it has been recently reported that he has recorded some other dialogue before he passed away, so that he's going to be in other animated features coming out later, so that's good. But they did give him a really touching send-off at the end of the credits, so I definitely wanted to point that out. I wanted to give him props for doing that. It was a tearjerker for sure. But as always, those are just my thoughts on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and smash that like button, as the kids say. It's a quick and easy way to tell YouTube that you enjoyed this video, and they should push it to other people that might enjoy this content as well. If you did enjoy this content, which obviously you did if you made it this far, unless you're hate watching this video for some reason, definitely consider subbing and dinging that bell. That way you're notified every time I post another video. I try to post weekly gaming related content, so if you like that content, definitely consider subscribing and dinging that bell. But until next video, take it easy. What's up, YouTube people? It's your boy Patty McNinja, and this is my boy Yoshi, aka Kitty Boy, and we were just talking and we agree that since you made it this far in the video, you might as well subscribe. You wouldn't want to disappoint Kitty Boy, would you?